Welcome to NewsNale episode 21. Today we're going to be talking about personal wealth management. We're just going to focus on one topic, a little shorter NewsNale. Got some feedback, and by the way, love feedback on any potential topics, what you like, what you don't like about the NewsNale. Feel free to reach out to me at peter@nailzed.com. But today, this NewsNale is brought to you by NailZed, and where we provide professional communication support in writing, presentations, and meeting management. As you've heard me talk about it, if you've had me in class, one of the best ways to separate yourself from your peers is to effectively communicate. Write a good email, good proposal, being able to present to your management, being able to run meetings effectively. If you think you need it, reach on out. If you think your team needs it, would love to come in and help. If you think your organization needs it, happy to talk with whoever that is at your organization that would need persuasion to really up the communications game. All right, on to personal wealth management. How do you accumulate wealth? Well, the difficult but really tried and true answer is over time. Sure, you can be a millionaire overnight, and you can also win the Powerball, but those odds are pretty darn low. So the best way to accumulate wealth, to be able to retire at whenever it's going to be for your generation, 65, 70, would be to start putting money away today. And really, the kind of rule of thumb is try to save at least 1/3 of your paycheck. Easy to do. If your company has direct deposit, you can set up where your paycheck goes. You can push 2/3 to your checking account, go nuts with that, and then 1/3 to a savings account. And in that savings account, you can have it go to a money market. I know Schwab is paying over 5%, and inflation somewhere between 2 and 3%, so you're making some money. Or you can invest in the stock market, and if you do that, I highly encourage you to invest, buy a mutual fund or an ETF that reflects the overall S&P 500. Otherwise, it's kind of playing roulette to think you can pick the one or two stocks that are going to do well. Again, like the Powerball, you might be able to do it, but it literally, it would be like stepping on to an NFL football field and thinking you could throw a few passes. Those are trained professional athletes, and traders are trained professional traders supported by computer algorithms and AI. So last year, for instance, the S&P grew at 24%, a little over 24%. This was all based on 7 stocks. They call them the Magnificent Seven, and you can guess what they were. Apple, which grew at 48% last year, Microsoft, 57%, Alphabet, which is Google, 58%, Amazon, 81%, NVIDIA, designer of chips, grew at 240%. Insane, right? Meta Platforms, which we know is Facebook, grew at 194%. Tesla at 102%. So that drove the entire S&P 500. Would have been great if you knew and picked that one stock last year, but an ETF will take a group of stocks, and so you'll get the overall S&P average. The 10-year average for the S&P is 12.2% growth, which means over 6 years, you will actually have doubled your money. So again, don't trust yourself to pick that one stock. Maybe you can, if you're really into it, put a little money aside to pick 1 or 2 stocks. And that's like, again, going to Vegas. That's the money that you're willing to lose. But the rest of it, I would really trust to some sort of mutual fund or ETF. You can set these accounts up at an E-Trade or Ameritrade or Charles Schwab. Really costs very little, next to nothing to do so. But again, that's that pulling aside a 30-year paycheck via direct deposit is forced savings. That's why people loved buying houses. It was actually a form of forced savings, paying that mortgage every month. A portion of it, smaller proportion of it, paid down the asset. And in this case, your asset is the stocks that you're buying. The other way to save is if your company offers a 401k. I highly recommend taking advantage of that. What that is a retirement fund, and it can take up a certain percent of your check, up to, I think, 7%, but it might be more. It's based on the overall salary that you're making. And that money is taken out of your paycheck before taxes. So your tax bill is going to be lower because you're being taxed on less. And then some companies match what you put into your 401k up to a certain amount, which I think sometimes 3, 4, 5, 6, 7%. At Compass, it was 4%. So what does that mean is if you invest in your 401k at least 4% of your salary, your company will give you, on top of your salary and your bonuses and your other paid time off, they will give you another 4%. That's just, they're giving you free money. And trust me, that 4-7%, you will not miss that in your paycheck. If your company doesn't offer a 401k, again, highly recommend you open one up at one of these investment platforms, E-Trade, Charles Schwab, Ameritrade, and then direct part of that third of your paycheck into one of those funds, because they just accumulate wealth over time. And when you retire again at 70, it will have doubled 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times over. And this is all accumulating tax-free in those investments accounts. Outside the 401k, you do pay tax on gains, but again, that's not so bad because you're having gains. So that's it for this NewsNale. Again, how do you save money? How do you get wealthy? You spend less than you make, basically, and force yourself to do that via direct deposit with your paycheck. Coming up next week, we're going to have our second office hours. That'll be February 7th. If you're here in Bozeman, we're going to be doing it local at the Mukai Coffee House, which used to be the Cold Smoke Coffee House over on 19th in the Stone Ridge Square shopping complex there. You might know it, it's next to the liquor store. And that's if we're live, we're at 8 to 10. And then if you can join us, can't join us live, join us virtually. We'll send you a Zoom link once you've RSVP'd. And that Zoom is between 5 and 7 p.m. These are all mountain times. Look for an email from us coming out tomorrow, reminding you about office hours, but come on in. I would love to see you. Any questions are valid, any type of advice, whether you're writing a cover letter, you're thinking about switching jobs, you're thinking about starting to interview, you're getting offers, your company wants to relocate you, you have a rotten manager, you want to make sure you have a good review at the end of the year, you're not on same page with the manager, any of those, would love to talk about it and provide any kind of support I can. So that's it for this NewsNale, brought to you by NailsEd, providing professional communications training for writing, presentations, and meeting management. This NewsNale produced by Sky Montana and Abby Soroka with their new intern, Ruby. Music by Slade Hudson, and then fact-checking, story sourcing by our good pal, Rancher Pete, who can be found on Instagram at Rancher Pete MT. And we will see you hopefully at office hours and at our next NewsNale, which will be coming out probably next week.